As we near the end of day one here for the Quake World Championship, there is no doubt about it. This has been one of the most action-packed days of Quake that we have ever seen at a finals. And to think that we have 2 more days is pretty bonkers. But here we are as we are about ready to enter into our next matchup. Joining me once again, ZSX and Ketchup for a matchup between Rapha and toxjq. 2 Quake legends going all the way back. One who has never, ever, ever stopped, and another who's making a glorious return here. We've got champion and Rapha, a champion in toxjq, and now these 2 great giants face off.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of eyes are on this matchup just because of the names alone, but the most important thing is obviously how, and what shape is Rapha in. Because I think everyone's looking at Tox, seeing the resurgence of Tox. He's going to do well in this tournament, but Rapha is one of the favorites to win it. And this is when we finally get to see, is he in that championship form, or has he got a little bit ways to go?
Well, before we talk about it, why don't we hear from Rapha himself? He sat down with, of course, our interview team to talk a little bit about the regular season and the finals. Let's hear what Shane has to say.
Rapha is my gamer tag. I'm currently the 2nd seed going into this tournament. My favorite, it's hard to pick. I would have to say it's between 2. It's between Athena and Slash. Those are my favorite champions, and it's just due to the different mobility that each provides to the game and the way that you can really express your play style. And yeah, I don't know. Just watching good Slash players and Athena players in general is a beautiful thing to watch in Quake, and yeah, I really like playing those 2 champs. Favorite weapons, probably rockets. I don't know, just hitting sick air rockets. There's nothing like it in any other game, so probably a simple answer. I've had a pretty decent season, not as strong as some of the others, but I think I'm still in a really good position. Obviously, the 2nd seed is nice to have. Obviously, it feels really good to be back at LAN, and it feels good to be back here because the last time I was here, you could say I did all right. So, but yeah, it's always nice to play here at the PGL studio, so grateful for the opportunity that we get to get. It would mean a whole lot to win it again. Just like the last 2, the goal is to go 3 for 3. So that's what I'm going for, and I don't expect anything less from anyone else. I think the biggest challenge, like every finals, is just trying to pick up stride through the tournament. So typically some of the tougher matches end up being like the beginning for me because I'm not necessarily playing at my A+ game yet. So it'll just be about like whoever I end up facing between toxjq and strong sage. Just making sure I bring my best game possible and like learn from it. Because like you said before, it's been almost 2 years since we've been able to play on LAN, so there'll need to be like slight adjustments made from game to game or evaluating what champions are going to be good during this tournament. I think, everybody has a rough idea, but once we get to LAN, you'll really start to see, which ones I think overall are consistently better. And then, yeah, a meta will take shape as the tournament goes on. So it's all about just being as prepared as possible and then hopefully ramping up and getting better and better until the grand finals.
Wise words from very well-spoken Rapha. Ketchup, I'm going to go to you. Rapha, obviously champion. It couldn't quite become the quad father yet, but certainly there's an achievement list that is very, very long, spanning many, many titles in the Quake series. And, your thoughts, and then take us into toxjq.
It's the championship mentality. That's one of the main and biggest things that Rapha has always brought to the table. He's the kind of player that is very self-reflective, happy to sort of look inward and realize if there is something that didn't work out, what was the reason for that? And that happens from a map-to-map basis. Sometimes it happens within the map itself. His ability to adapt to people is nigh unmatched. I think there really is no player out there that can reflect on the player versus player element of Duel like Rapha has been able to do, because there are so many layers to what makes someone top level at a game like this, and Rapha somehow manages to be the top of the leaderboard in pretty much every single way.
Yep.
The most successful Quake Champions player that exists, and not just Duel, but like every game mode. You name a game mode that was made competitive in this, and Rapha was able to win it with some people or himself.
That's true.
Ridiculous.
It's just somebody that commands respect. I think, we've done few of these segments now, and I think that's the only video we've all watched basically in silence, because when Rapha speaks, you listen.
Yep.
He's always got something insightful to say, always valuable and concise. And no matter how good he is, he always seems to find a way to get better, to iterate, to lead the meta. And that's even harder when you're in a region with no competition. So Rapha is somebody that I really respect for a lot of reasons. I actually don't think he, and he said it in that video, he's not in the best shape. I don't think he's the favorite coming into this. He's not #1. He had, for his standards, a rough season. You still owe me a bit of money for that, by the way.
I thought I was paid up, but okay.
Well,
All right. Show me the receipts, dog. Let's go.
Wasn't undefeated. Had a rough season considering, even though he was top 2, top 3. But I don't think he comes in as favorite, but he comes in as the one to watch, no matter who you are. Like, I think my opinion is Ro16 is probably my favorite. I still think he's looking at Rapha, trying to learn, trying to work out what to do, and that's the status of the man.
And of course, his opponent, right? Not a slouch when it comes to Quake. Quake 3, Quake 4, Quake Live, you know, other modes in between. And then, of course, here at Quake Champions as well, toxjq makes his return. A lot of people were hoping he was going to play through the qualifiers, was going to make it into the tournament as a challenger. And, you know, here he is. Have we seen old Tox in this play? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But you got to ask yourself, can a person who, you know, takes himself away, embeds himself in a real life, be able to meet the, you know, the level that you need to be to defeat a player like Rapha?
With the way the game itself has shifted, a lot has changed since, you know, we started to see Tox at, I would say, the peak of his success in this game in particular. We have really started to see the decline of just how important aim on its own can be. We're looking at all of these world-class players now that are always on people's favorites. They may not be known as like the absolute greatest aimers on the planet. You know, you look at someone like Ro16, Rapha. Kilson's different because Kilson does have great aim anyway. You know, Wenger can have these unbelievable moments, but they're not just aim, right? There's so much more to their gameplay that if they're fighting someone that is even able to hit every single shot imaginable, they're still able to go, okay, well, this is what I'm dealing with. I know that. How can I shape what I'm doing around that so I can still have an advantage? And it's just the ability to match any amount of ferocity from an opponent is something that the best players in the world currently are able to do. You know, you can hit the best shots in the world and they'll still beat you. That is one of the elements that I strongly believe that, as much as I love watching Tox, I do think this is going to be a really rough matchup because Rapha knows what you're going to do. You know, this is not going to be a new thing for Rapha. Rapha will know what to expect. And Rapha has, you know, one of the biggest brains going.
Well, let's take a look at the picks and bans and see how that's going to play out here, as it looks like we are going to have Awoken picked by toxjq for the first one, Veil coming out for Rapha, and then finally a good old-fashioned DM6 showdown between two Quake legends. Let's go. Blood Covenant is joining the fray on this one. Take us through the champions, whoever kind of wants to grab this one.
Scalebearer at last.
Yeah, this draft gives me a headache. Partly because he's banned a clutch at the end. I don't know if last time I saw Rapha pick up a clutch as a random
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I mean, just to start it out, like, you're kind of really in a tough spot if Rapha's got first pick because what do you ban? You ban the Nyx. Oh, he's got an Athena. Cool. That's going to be rough from the outset. Then we move on to Veil, and we've actually seen a Scalebearer first time today. I think, you know.
And the fact that Rapha's like the only guy that picks Scalebearer, and I'm like, yep, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we just picked up how smart he is and strategic, and of course.
Well, no, it's more with how he plays Scale, not that it is a good pick.
It's a high
any other.
It's a high skill ceiling champion. That's why it's picked by the absolute best.
If by high ceiling you mean he's taller than most of the bumps.
In many ways than one. But anyway, the Scalebearer comes out, like a lot of players have said, this champion sucks on LAN for various reasons. However, Veil is a map where you can use it no matter what, because the corridors are so tight. You've got the speed, you've got the stack. It blends perfectly. That's a really good pick. We'll see how it rings true. Stroke's a bit more of an unusual one there. I still think it's very valuable nonetheless. A little bit more unusual. Like you could have picked an Ison, and we've seen him work around that, but it was actually picked first, so that's one way or another.
I think it's a movement.
Yeah.
And then the preemptive removal of Slash. We have that Blood Covenant as the final map. Rapha himself has said that Slash is one of his favorite champions currently. And we kind of know what Slash can do on Blood Covenant.
Yes.
Least of all, Tox's Slash. That's
Exactly.
the master of the crouch slide. I think being able to take that away and being confident that you can win with what's left. Again, it's very much a know your opponent situation, which kind of just reflects onto what Rapha is known for.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I think these two players are ready to rock and roll here as we've got yet another best of 3 upon us. One of these players will move forward in the brackets while the other will drop down to the lower. I did hear that we've had our first couple of players eliminated. I believe that you were covering that. Any quick updates you want to share with us?
I don't know if more games have been played, but the one I was casting on the B stream with 40 lines was CNZ versus Nosfer. Unfortunately, CNZ didn't have his best day at the office, and Nosfer looking really good in that, took it 2-0.
All right. Well, as soon as these players are ready to go, we will go. Any predictions before we kick things off? I have a feeling we might be on the same page across the board on this one.
I think it's no matter who's playing up against him, you've always really got an inkling Rapha's going to win. I'm going to say 2-0 Rapha. We saw Tox earlier. He looked decent, but he also struggled against a newcomer in Strong Stage. Not a situation you want to be in going against Rapha. No disrespect to Strong Stage. I thought he had a great game.
He struggled against an American player?
Yeah, but he came out on top. And out of all the matchups, pretty much any other player in the tournament, I would favor Tox slightly more. But you give him Rapha's Ketchup Illuminated 2 is so smart. He plays so methodical. And unfortunately, we've seen time and time again, there are moments where Tox's control lapses. And Rapha will absolutely take his little cleaners. You have to play a perfect game to beat Rapha. And I haven't seen Tox play a perfect game yet.
Yeah.
The amount of Tox that we've been watching over the years, if there's one kind of player that Tox has historically struggled with, it's those that can keep up with his aim and then simply play smarter. Rapha is one of the players, especially of recent years, whose aim has continued to climb and evolve. Rapha's definitely one of those, similar to like a Kilson, for example. So as much as it pains me to say, I do believe 2-0.
All right, gentlemen, have fun with this one. I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy yourselves.
I will. It's late here, but you know what? The vibes are still fantastic, and with games like this, that's going to keep us nice and awake for the rest of the show. Rapha having that armor already, the Battle of the Lights, which you always kind of get at the start, right as we go into a map like this one. But Rapha in a pretty decent situation. Still needs to get himself one of those rails to kickstart things off. And Tox, we talk about how it can sometimes be a bit of a slow start. Can't really afford to be against this opponent.
He can't indeed, but I do really like the Anarchy pickup, First pick the Athena. How are you going to match it? We'll go 5 at a time with the speed. Oh, he didn't really hit anything right there, though. Forced to pop the inject, so he does get out alive, but he burnt a lot of resources just to get out. Now he needs to get himself back on the map and contest this next round of items. But Rapha's going up aggressive twice with the shotgun. And there's the first frag catch-up.
That's just starting things off incredibly strong. Knowing where your opponent's going to be. I mean, just them coming up near light, it's such a common place for someone to look for you, try and position themselves towards Mega. Rapha immediately just goes, you know what? Yeah, I know you're there. Let me just do this sneaky little maneuver and then take away that first frag, and then whatever else happens after that, a nice little bonus one to double it up. However, 2-0, we've only really just started, but one thing that's been locked in is that map control. Rapha has sat on the vast majority of items so far, and importantly, keeping control over that heavy. You got 2 of these light champions, especially one that has inject. You've got more armor to work with. That's just great in every situation.
And the respect from Rapha there to not push through that doorway was great. He's going to take the low ground nice and early, spam it out with this tri-bolt, do any sort of damage he can, a flick rail as well, and then get back in position to defend not only the light, but also the rail, and even get a frag for his troubles. Really smart play by Rapha, forfeiting the Mega for the long game. Got this heavy on lockdown catch-up, going to keep patrolling this area at a huge rocket.
That was almost a lovely little three-piece there, Dan. I mean, being able to get that direct rocket to open up. I mean, this is kind of what we mean, right? Being that one step ahead in the mind of Tox. I know you're going to go for that item, and I'm so confident here's this direct rocket.
Yeah, Rapha already looking really, really strong, playing just nice and methodical. Tox is doing a decent job of not overcommitting and finding that balance, but unable to get himself a rail, so confined to the mid-range. And when you're doing that, Rapha's going to close the gap ever so quickly. And once again, he's found him off the spawn in the doorway, and he converts 5-0. 2 minutes 30 in. There is no mercy from the American.
And there will be no mercy for the entirety of the 10 minutes. One of the things that has been famous from Rapha at this point is the ferocity. Being able to go, it doesn't matter if I'm 10-0, 20-0. Up until that 10 minutes, I am going to go intense all the way. Full focus, no room for you to get warmed up or comfortable.
Yeah, and there's a lot of respect from Rapha's side for Tox. This is definitely a statement piece when it comes to the result and the performance. Because no doubt, I know you're all there, pros. There's everyone in the waiting room watching this to see how Rapha's going to turn up. And he is turning up a treat at the moment. First frag for Tox on the board, 3 minutes 30 in. Let's see how he can continue with this. If there's any momentum off the back of it. Rapha has stolen away that heavy. He's got himself a rail already. And no doubt he's going to be in the vicinity to defend this next Mega.
This is the thing about Tox, right? It does manage to get a nice little bit of opening damage there, but Rapha has the control of the entire map. And in a lot of cases, when you've picked up an item, it's because he's kind of all right with you picking it up. And he, as you said, he's been playing the long game.
You're allowed an item when I say you're allowed an item, Toxic. And here you can have one, but I'm going to punish you for the next minute for it. And that is the Rapha game. He's been just relentless. The tempo is huge. Like we said, Anarchy's a nice pick because you can play and keep up with the tempo, but you can see when we're on Toxic's POV how difficult that is. No matter where he goes, Rapha is doing a drive-by or has some spam to say something for you. It's a really challenging situation, particularly when you're 7 frags down.
7 frags down, and we haven't even hit the 5-minute point yet. And this is the kind of concern that you have. Tox, by all means, a fantastic player in his own right, but you go up against someone like Rapha that is able to match your aim, especially with, well, some of the rails that he's been landing today. And then he's just playing that locked in, just iron straight level of control. Tox does manage to get a rail, so that's a nice little bit of bonus damage there, but what does Tox do from this point?
It's not even going toe-to-toe on the aim, which he definitely can. It's just the efficiency, the weapon choice, the preemptive fire. Every corner Toxic goes around, there's a rocket, or there's a nail gun, or whatever it is. There is damage waiting for him. And so all of these fights, he's going into with half health effectively. He has converted there once again, but look how difficult it was for him to do so. Left with only 60 health, and he used the inject.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, Dan. I'm getting very similar vibes watching this map that we just saw with Razy.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The ability to say, it's not that I'm hitting these stylish shots and doing all this out-of-this-world stuff. It's just that I'm constantly in position. Yep. I've got wonderful weapon choices where if there is an inch to get max damage, I'm just going to take that every single time. I'm not going to give you an opportunity to kind of wiggle your way out of a bad situation with some kind of highlight reel moment. Like, I don't even allow it to exist.
And this is what we saw building from Razy throughout the season since he's changed his setup, is just a quicker tempo, a smarter tempo, more efficiency, less just raw power. And he's taken it to another level, and we're seeing it again from Rapha. Rapha's someone who has shown this consistently. But this is... He doesn't normally start this strong in tournaments. He's looking incredibly effective already. It's only map 1. Tox has done a decent job of stabilizing, but at the same time, you can just see how hard it is. No matter where he goes, Rapha's always waiting for him.
Lots of work to do and not a lot of time to get it done for poor old Tox. There's currently 6 frags to make up for, and that's on the understanding that Rapha's not going to be able to get any more. Now, this could be a decent fight, but the positioning from Rapha once more. You know, Tox did damage, but you want to push in, you had to go through a minefield of rockets to do it, and that could have just as easily gone the opposite way. A little bit of damage, that's going to completely neutralize the light armor and make things miserable for Tox once more. The LG duel, Rapha, smart, knows that, hey, look, I'm getting caught out here. I don't have to take this fight. Why would I take this fight? Let me just get some health and I'll fight him later.
Exactly. Just understanding which fights to take, which to run away from, how to position. He's caught a little bit here, but once again, if you're in Athena, you do have a number of get-out-of-jail-free cards. He does burn his last one just there until it recoups. And Tox got some ammo for his rail now as well, so can sit pretty there. But with 3 minutes to go, I think Rapha's at a point where he's just going to manage the game. If he blows it wide open with another frag from Tox pushing, sure, he'll go back on the aggressive, but until then, he'll just play the positions, play the keep-away game, and he has a lockdown on the heavy as well, so he has that resource for himself.
Rapha's been able to get in and out, take that heavy for yet another time, and this is always a future investment. By no means does Rapha plan on being fragged in that situation, but the important thing is just shutting down those items. Tox isn't able to pick any of those up. He really isn't going to have anything to mount a comeback. Even if he secures a frag, again, it's not going to be clean, right? Rapha's always going to return some damage, and then in 2 lights, he's going to be able to spawn, maybe spawn near something, and then pick it up once more, making that comeback so hard to obtain, as we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, and Rapha just wasting time there, so he gets himself a free pickup at the heavy. Really, really smart once again. He didn't even care about doing any damage. It was just delaying his opponent. It's worked for treat. Tox is caught in here, but he can't even do any damage. And this is the frustrating part for Tox, is he just can't push Rapha because the positioning is just spot on time and time again. He's going to try and go through the choke point. Rapha's already gone and disappeared with the right weapons to defend himself. 1.5 minutes to go to catch up. It's looking impossible at this point.
Don't see how it can be done. Rapha's played this rock-solid game, and with rockets like that, it's just simply going to become even harder. But let's kind of talk about what we saw there. It was that kind of quintessential Rapha experience. Athena, in particular, is such a dangerous champion in the hands of a player like this. Someone who has complete map control in their mind, timing every single possible item, being able to cycle them where you can barely get anything yourself. And then you factor in, now we're playing a champion that has mobility that is almost completely unmatched.
Absolutely.
Nightmare.
Yeah, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but maybe the Nyx is slightly more amenable to play against because she doesn't have that obnoxious grapple. She's only got an obnoxious disappearing act in the Ghost Walk. Who knows? Either way, it would have been a formidable task to challenge Rapha in a situation with the way he's playing. Not just the use of the ability, obviously, but everything about it. The decision-making, the aim was all on point. It was just that Athena X Factor gave him the additional impetus, should I say, to really maximize all of those key factors. So he's looking very, very scary. But we do move on now to Veil, which we do now see the Scalebearer against the Strong. And, you know, Rapha said in the past many times, this is his favorite map, but this is the one we often see him lose when we come to the crunch.
Well, we've already seen Rapha off to a fantastic flying start on this map, so that's already things being a little bit different to how they often are in this land setting. You know, a bit of a slow burner perhaps, but not happening at the moment. And there's actually quite a lot to talk about how that map ended, or went in general, because Rapha's in... Oh, wow, that's my lord.
That's
bad.
You've
for those that obviously can't see, Dan is pointing out the end game stats. Tox did not manage to pick up a single heavy armor. Not one. A 0.
I genuinely don't know if I've seen that in a pro game.
So actually that does kind of lend into what I was just about to talk about with that map, though, is that Rapha's game plan there being something that we've seen many times, where the Athena on a map with control such as that, where he just owns the entire map. You cannot exist. That just naturally lended itself into being a bit of an anti-Tox strategy, because Tox, known for being an aim machine, and even if he's getting potentially outsmarted, he's still able to hit those ridiculous rails, hit that nice little bit of LG if we have these fights. Rapha's style in that map just did not even allow for those shots to take place.
Yes.
Like, by the time Tox would even be in position to do damage, it was often return damage because Rapha already has an angle on you. And even then, most of the time, Tox couldn't even hit that because Rapha's already gone.
Exactly. His whole strategy, as you say, was about lock the items down and play the safe angles and just absolutely spam the map out. But the thing about the heavy in particular is it's the perfect one to isolate as an Athena. because your opponent, more often than not, is going to be TP side of the map. You can just scuttle on out through the rail with a single grapple. If your opponent comes from behind, you can just grab the upper ledge and fly on through the TP. So it's got 2 perfect exit routes, whereas the Mega is a lot more of a vulnerable situation to be in as an Athena. And so that, for Rapha, was more, I will challenge this and take it when it's safe. But the heavy was locked down and unchallenged by Toxic. And what can you do in that situation when you don't have the item? So really well played by Rapha. I love the tempo. Everything fell into place nicely. Obviously, Veil's very different now. You're going to go up in a much more heavily contested situation. We saw Toxic win this map earlier. It was a little bit messy, but we saw his aim coming to the fore in the mid game against Strong Sage, and it brought him through. Different challenge against a Scalebearer when you have that stack, and that's again another reason potentially why Rapha picked this champion. It's just to have that additional padding to absorb more of the damage of Tox as well.
Now, there's a vast difference here that we're going to be able to see, and that's mostly a question being answered. Players have been talking about heavies maybe not being so effective here on LAN because, I mean, just weapons feel better. They're easier to hit, more consistent to get that damage. And at the same time, Scalebearer in particular, players don't seem to have a huge amount of faith in on LAN. Now, one of the main reasons that I've been told by a few is that Bull Rush, something about that extra split second you've got to kind of just do what you want, it's a bit harder for him to land that Bull Rush on people. Now, as you quite rightly said, on a map like Veil, maybe it won't really matter as much, because to be fair, Scalebearer is more than just Bull Rush. There's mobility, stack, the sort of unique movement that he has.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious to see what this champion's looking like right now.
I think in Rapha's hands on this map, it's a really good pick. The Bull Rush is definitely an interesting one on LAN. I haven't played it to experience it, but I think a lot of that issue will come around when he's cornering online and you get a slightly wider berth. That's not the case on LAN where it's more accurate. But cornering on Veil isn't normally an issue when you go in straight lines a lot of the time. And if you cannot move through a doorway because you're blocked, that's what happens. Plus, it's a lot easier to play a slightly more reserved game in terms of the angles on Veil. So the size of the champion also isn't as big of a concern. You can definitely avoid those fights. So for those reasons, plus just having the additional stack to go up against Tox, this is the recipe for success for me on this map. Now, Tox is playing a crouch sliding champion. We know he loves that. The peak is great. The Strog is great in himself. So it's a good pick, if not slightly more difficult to execute.
Well, looks like we have, in fact, just entered the Veil here for our second map between Rapha and Tox. Rapha, a one-sided affair on that first map. And the question is, will that dominance continue? Is this a chance for Tox to come online just a little bit? Because, to be honest, in that first map, there was no momentum to be had. Not even an opportunity.
No, I couldn't agree more. And
uh-oh.
as you pointed out, Tox is the champion in himself. And there's the first Bull Rush.
Oh!
DJ Wheat
is laughing somewhere. Well, maybe not.
I'm just going to say DJ Wheat for every frag the Scalebearer gets.
But that was kind of the quintessential Veil of NAF Scalebearer, if you think about it. How did that rocket do 100 damage? Rapha found a way, almost managed to hit that cheeky little rail at the same time, but no matter. Sometimes it's not about securing that frag, is it? It's just about forcing the opponent to retreat, send them into a predictable running away point.
Oh no, that's not the time to use a peek. Yep.
No, he's coming right around the corner. The Galactic Warlord. Uh-oh.
Oh dear, you don't want to be there either. Once again, Rapha's already got full lockdown on this map. He's even going to take away one of the lights that Tox has at his disposal. We saw Tox have 0 heavy armors on the previous map. Items are an absolute must for obvious reasons as the second light armor gets taken away from Tox, meaning he only has 1 to work with, and that's already been eliminated with this spam.
Here's what's worrying. Rapha has done so much work in these opening couple of minutes that in the downtime between these 2 major items, he is going to have time to take those lights away from Tox. And even then, Tox with no armor picks up that Mega. I don't think Rapha cares all that much because enter the destruction. Toxic does actually manage to get some pretty respectable LG damage, I've got to say.
But the problem is, and you just pointed it out, the more damage you do, the more stack they have to recoup with your items. If you're not able to bully them off, and unfortunately for Tox, he's not able to. He might be able to get over to this Mega. He's working his way around, but Rapha's already there. He's got the Bull Rush up if he needs it. He's just going to stick around here. Doesn't he hit that rail, though? He's low on health, but not low on armor. And that's easy enough to recoup. And he's gone barreling through. He's got the shotgun. He's got the bull rush.
Oh,
Somehow,
misses the shot. That was really one of those kind of disastrous super shotguns where you're at the right range, but just for that split second, they're just out of sight. Almost a wrong word there, but that was no need to repeat that. Anyway, as we now jump into the rest of this map, a bit of a mistake, you know, the first time we've seen any kind of combat mistake from Rapha, and it's the kind of thing that can happen to anyone, so I don't really think that's going to bother him all that too much. 3-1, still looking good.
He is looking okay, and despite the pressure from Rapha, the thing Tox is doing, he's doing the best he can on the back foot, which is hitting as much damage. And you've mentioned it, the couple of fights Rapha's gone in, Tox has absolutely melted him. And so if he can be more consistent with that and do it with items, then he will begin to pick up some frags. And at that point, he might be able to convert that into some momentum. Rapha has forfeited that heavy, though, in favor of the Mega and grabbing some weapons, I presume, and just maintaining a higher ground position in turn, challenging for the next round of the heavy.
And the patience coming out strong. Rapha not going to pick up that tri-bolt. Absolutely unnecessary to give your position away. And the opening rocket doesn't quite hit its mark either, catching the terrain. Bit of a shame there for Rapha, however. Able to get in and out by taking that heavy, and by using the bull rush, that damage mitigation means that you're going to take no damage running towards Mega and full map control, once again belonging to the American as Tox. Forced to retreat, and even one opening rail is going to make Tox sweat in this condition.
That's the problem. When you're going up against a heavy like that, you can't afford to miss. I know they were challenging rails, but you just can't afford to miss, because look at Rapha now. He is walking around swinging his thing as he has got lots of stack to work with. Tox is early for this Mega.
Too
Rapha
early.
knows it. He's coming
too
around.
early.
He's gone the long route. He's going to go through the TP, but there's a rocket to meet him. Sticking around, trying to bounce him with some rockets, but it's not going to be enough as Tox is flinging it around. Oh, and there you go, the conversion with the Pika.
That was a straight-up Quake Champions 1v1 right there.
But the thing
weapon
is,
upon weapon upon ability upon ability.
That is such a deja vu moment of the way in which Rapha has lost this map. The overconfidence, the stack, trying to bully his way through. We have seen this story before, Ketchup, and it's 3-2. Once again, Rapha's coming in slightly late. Tox doesn't get the mecha! No! He was standing right by it the entire fight. I thought he was using it efficiently, but I don't think he realized it was up.
Either that or just in the heat of the moment, holding on to the promise of picking up when you get weak just that little bit too long. Either way,
greedy, but
no time to reflect on it now, because 5 minutes are gone. Rapha now 4-2. That was a fantastic situation for him. And with that Pika, at the very least, Toxic is going to get some timing on that heavy.
I think there's a bit more respect from Rapha's side as well, as that was a very, very close call. I'm sure he saw the situation unfold and counted his blessings. It's only 4-2. There's been so much combat. And again, Tox is doing exactly what he needs to do and just clutching this map. The bull rush comes out, but it is cancelled as Tox gets away. There's a decent enough split for Rapha to contest here. And he knows he's done a little bit of damage, so he might feel confident to push on through. He goes around through the mid this time, and Tox is there, as he rightly should be, contesting his Mega. This time he must take it. He surely does, but he has taken a lot of damage. Not done enough just yet. But Rapha himself potentially getting a little bit greedy and getting low. And now deciding to retreat to those lights.
The rail has not exactly been Rapha's best friend. There's been a couple of key instances where even one single rail would be able to turn the tide of an engagement or stop Tox from being able to run away and establish himself. I feel like the 4-2, with how things have gone, we very well could have had a much higher scoring game, but sometimes it just won't turn out that way. Tox forced to use the Pika. I think way too nervous to re-peak that, though. You know, Rapha could realistically swap to anything there, and it just wouldn't have been worth the risk. However, sticking around up here maybe a bit too long, as he does get forced to drop down. Truthfully, don't know what he was doing up there.
He thought Rapha had gone into the main room and decided to try and sneak the light, but again, very risky. And at this point, he's given up the whole map for that one item. He's going to go aggressive here, trying to push on and do anything with 3 minutes to go, but it's not to be. Rapha will sweep up both major items for a second rotation in a row. And now things are looking bleak for Tox. Needs to pull out some of that classical magic to get back into this one.
Rapha's certainly not going to make it easy. One of the reasons the Scalebearer can be such a wonderful pick on a map like this, being able to spawn fresh with a gigantic stack, often one that will trump the size of Tox's, even though there is a medium champion here on the field. It makes a comeback so much harder, and Rapha getting hit by constant damage, forced to use the ball rush just in case, prioritizing the timing on the Mega, does manage to get it. Tox just frames too late on the arrival. And Rapha not able to get any rails in return, but again, starting stack. That's why the comeback's going to be difficult to make.
But he can make it. This is the thing. He needs to get the items, though. He's shown the stack doesn't even really matter from a Rapha point of view because the execution has been so crisp from Tox for the most of this duel. They can keep that pressure off and get the items. It'll be enough. He uses the Pika, but nah, Rapha's there. He bounces across and smacks him in his ghost form with a full rocket.
Has to go for the safe approach, and that was a tasty little rocket jump, just to make the incoming rail angle so much harder to obtain, and to give Tox's credit, was in a position to at least try and go for it. Rapha stealing that item away, and at such a pivotal moment in this map, a minute and a half left to go. Tox, I'd say very little armor, because I'm sure there might be something nearby for him to pick up if he wants to go out of his way to get it, but even then, he is significantly down here and not in a position to fight for this heavy whatsoever.
No.
Nowhere near it, and had to really trade a heavy for a light, and even then, Rapha in position for a light himself. If he takes damage in this fight, he'll just back up and take that. Oh, direct! See ya later.
Yeah, that's the stamp on the envelope, I think, to send this one home, because Rapha is cleaning up with a minute to go. There's 5 frags of difference. Might only be 4, but as you pointed out now, look at the difference here. How can you rush this one down?
Getting all of those frags on this map, if it was like a light champion, then you would think there is a possibility. Scalebearer, though, and the fact that a ball rush is up in 20 seconds, highly do not think so. And all we can really do here, I think, is just give Rapha the props deserved, to know your opponent, contain what is often very hard to contain, and just play a rock-solid game of Quake.
Yeah, Tox is making it a good go of it, but it's not to be. And then the issue with the Scalebearer is it offers you more license to make mistakes. It's just easier to execute on this map. And I'm sure you'll see when we get to the scoreboard, the eternal problem we've seen with Tox in this set is just a lack of items. I think he had 4 or 5 heavies, 6 or 7 megas to Rapha's 15 of both. And it's how can you contest with someone who's got double, triple your stack? Map 1, he had 0 heavies. It was a valiant effort. Welcome back, Wheat, but it's just a step too far going up against one of the best players at this day and age with no items to your name.
It's now my turn to point to you for the stats. In those 2 maps, Tox picked up 4 heavies.
Yep.
In both maps together, combined.
It just, what do you do?
Ouch.
I mean, I think we pretty much kind of covered it in the beginning, right? Is that like you're up against, you know, a player you've played before, but you're up against someone who has been consistent and never stopped and has kept refining their game. And at some point, it really doesn't matter how incredible your aim is. If you've got to be able to match that momentum on some level.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that there. It might actually get a lot of people to beg, like, Tox, come back, put your all in it, let's see you go again. But in this case, it was pretty clear. Still put up, you know, a reasonable game, especially in the second game. Maybe not so much that first map, but
no,
you know,
and it was a much more
expected.
a much more clinical, classical Tox in that it wasn't all out aggression, just trying to bully. It was more calculated. But the problem is, he was going up against someone who was playing Quake champions, not just Quake. They were playing the map, they were playing the champions, they understood it in more detail, and they understood how to min-max, and that puts so much pressure on Tox to execute everything perfectly. And we said it, as soon as there's a mistake, it's done. You're just going to capitalize on it, 2, 3 frags. Exactly, and then momentum's gone.
I couldn't agree more. Sorry, you both looked over in my direction.
I thought you were going to say something. I mean,
I was just looking, you know, coherently. I'm listening.
We didn't get to see the fabled Blood Covenant reunion. It didn't happen, but that's okay too. Rapha takes it 2-0. He will advance on. And Toxa's not out of it yet,
No.
right? Still has the means to claw through that lower bracket and could still potentially give some folks problem down there. So I don't think he's someone you underestimate. I don't expect him to have some like monumental volcanic explosion of like skill or you know, just sort of clarity that would allow him to make a super run through. But hopefully he's at least happy with, you know, coming and putting up the results that he's put up so far.
And once again, folks, remember the lower bracket action. You can find all of it on the B stream. Very, very easy to find. And it kind of means that no stone is left unturned, right? There's so many players here and so many matches that people want to see. And by all means, you get as many of them as possible on show. Can't fit them all into this stream. So tune into the B stream as well and catch the ongoing action that is currently taking place.
That'll be obviously tomorrow as well. You're going to need an extra pair of eyes to watch all of it, but that's okay. We expect you to do just that.
I don't know what you were going to say, though.
I mean,
I don't know. It's been a long day.
Clearly.
I don't even know where you're going with this.
Clearly. All right, gentlemen. Well, then it's time to take a break, isn't it? When we come back, it is going to be Avic taking on Saigib in our final matches leading up to the end of day one. But don't worry, you'll get some sleep. We'll be right back with more of day two, but we still got a few matches to get through. So we're taking a quick break. We'll return right after this.